This is Steel of War. What follows is a complete factual record of British military vehicles that entered active service during the Second World War. Each machine listed here was deployed, issued, and used between 1939 and 1945. During World War II, the British Army fielded a diverse range of military vehicles designed for infantry support, mobile warfare, reconnaissance, and artillery operations. These vehicles evolved rapidly in response to battlefield experience across Europe, North Africa, and Asia, reflecting Britain's industrial capacity and operational doctrine during the conflict. Light Tank Mark VI. The Light Tank Mark VI was the British Army's primary light tank at the outbreak of World War II. Designed for reconnaissance and colonial policing, it was lightly armored and armed with machine guns only. Although obsolete against enemy armor, it saw early service in France, North Africa, and the Middle East. Its limited protection and firepower led to rapid replacement, but it remained operational in secondary roles during the early war years. Tetrarch Light Tank. The Tetrarch was a lightweight, air-transportable tank developed for reconnaissance and airborne operations. Armed with a 2-pounder gun, it offered better firepower than earlier light tanks. It saw limited but notable service with British airborne forces, including deployment during Operation Tonga on D-Day. Its compact size made it suitable for air delivery, though its light armor restricted broader battlefield use. Matilda, the second infantry tank. The Matilda II was heavily armored for its time and designed to support infantry advances. Armed with a 2-pounder gun, it proved highly effective during early North African fighting, where enemy anti-tank weapons struggled to penetrate its armor. However, its slow speed and limited armament reduced effectiveness later in the war as enemy firepower improved. It remained in service in secondary theaters. Valentine Infantry Tank. The Valentine was one of Britain's most produced tanks of the war. It combined reliable mechanics, a low profile, and adequate armor. Though initially underarmed, later variants received improved guns. Valentines served extensively in North Africa, Italy, Northwest Europe, and the Eastern Front via Lend-Lease. Its reliability made it popular with crews despite cramped internal conditions. Churchill Infantry Tank. The Churchill tank emphasized heavy armor and extreme terrain capability. Early models suffered mechanical issues, but later versions proved robust and adaptable. Armed progressively with larger guns, Churchill's forces excelled in difficult environments such as Italy and Northwest Europe. Specialized variants supported engineering and assault roles, making the Churchill one of the most versatile British tanks of the war. You are listening to Steel of War. This documentary presents verified wartime equipment only. Subscribe for continued access to structured archival military history. Cruiser Tank Mark I to IV. Early cruiser tanks were designed for speed and exploitation rather than protection. These models were lightly armored and armed with 2-pounder guns. They saw combat in France and North Africa, but were quickly outclassed by enemy anti-tank weapons. Their service highlighted the need for improved reliability and armor in fast-moving armored formations. Crusader, cruiser tank. The Crusader became the main British cruiser tank during the North African campaign. It offered high speed and mobility, but suffered from mechanical reliability issues and light armor. Armed initially with a 2-pounder gun, later variants received a 6-pounder. Despite shortcomings, the Crusader played a central role in British armored operations from 1941 to 1943. Covenanter Cruiser Tank. The Covenanter was produced in large numbers but rarely saw frontline combat due to severe cooling problems. Most vehicles were retained in the United Kingdom for training and home defense. Although officially in service, it was largely unsuitable for overseas deployment, demonstrating the challenges of rapid wartime tank development. Cavalier Cruiser Tank. The Cavalier was an interim cruiser tank incorporating lessons from earlier designs. Mechanical limitations restricted its frontline use, and it primarily served in training roles. Some vehicles were adapted for specialist purposes, but they were soon superseded by more capable cruiser tanks. Centaur Cruiser Tank. The Centaur was closely related to the Cromwell but powered by a different engine. Early Centaurs were used mainly for training, though later versions saw combat in support roles, including during the Normandy landings. Some were fitted with close support weapons for infantry assistance. Cromwell Cruiser Tank. The Cromwell was one of Britain's most successful cruiser tanks. Fast, reliable, and armed with a 75mm gun, it combined mobility with improved firepower. Cromwells served extensively in Northwest Europe from 1944 onward, particularly with armored reconnaissance units, and proved well-suited to fast-paced operations. Challenger Cruiser Tank. The Challenger was designed to mount a powerful 17-pounder anti-tank gun. Its large turret and limited production meant it served in small numbers. It provided British units with increased anti-armor capability before more advanced designs became available. Comet Cruiser Tank. The Comet represented the peak of British wartime tank design. Entering service in late 1944, it combined speed, armor, and a high-velocity gun. The Comet saw action in Northwest Europe during the final stages of the war and set the foundation for post-war British armored development. This is Steel of War. If this archival narration adds clarity to your understanding of World War II equipment, subscribe to future factual documentaries. Universal Carrier, Bren Carrier. The Universal Carrier was the most widely produced British armored vehicle of the war. Lightly armored and highly versatile, it transported infantry, weapons, and supplies. It served in every theater of war and was adapted for numerous roles, including reconnaissance, command, and support. Its simplicity and reliability made it indispensable. Loyd Carrier. The Loyd Carrier was a tracked utility vehicle primarily used to tow artillery and transport supplies. Less armored than the Universal Carrier, it was nonetheless essential for logistics and artillery support. It operated across multiple theaters and remained in service throughout the war. Daimler Armored Car. The Daimler Armored Car was a highly regarded reconnaissance vehicle. Well armed for its class and mechanically reliable, it served in Europe, North Africa, and Asia. Its combination of speed, protection, and firepower made it one of the most effective British armored cars of the war. AEC Armored Car. The AEC armored car was heavily armored for a wheeled vehicle and mounted large-caliber guns. Used primarily in North Africa and Italy, it provided strong fire support for reconnaissance units. Its size and weight limited mobility, but its firepower was valued in combat. Humber Armored Car. The Humber armored car was widely used for reconnaissance and security duties. Reliable and adaptable, it served in Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Various armament configurations allowed it to perform multiple battlefield roles. Bishop Self-Propelled Gun. The Bishop mounted a 25-pounder gun on a Valentine tank chassis. Its high silhouette and limited gun elevation restricted effectiveness, but it provided mobile artillery support during the North African campaign. It was a stopgap solution until improved designs became available. Archer Self-Propelled Gun. The Archer featured a rear-facing 17-pounder gun mounted on a Valentine chassis. This unusual configuration allowed rapid deployment and withdrawal. It served effectively as a tank destroyer in Northwest Europe and remained in service until the end of the war. Deacon Self-Propelled Gun. The Deacon mounted a 6-pounder anti-tank gun on a wheeled truck chassis. Designed for desert warfare, it provided mobile anti-armor capability in North Africa. Its limited protection, restricted use, but it fulfilled a specific operational need. Sexton self-propelled gun. The Sexton mounted the British 25-pounder gun on a tracked chassis. It provided mobile artillery support for armored formations and saw extensive service in Italy and Northwest Europe. The Sexton was reliable, effective, and widely used until the end of the war. These vehicles represent the complete spectrum of British ground vehicles that entered active service during World War II. Each was shaped by wartime necessity and battlefield experience. This has been a factual record of their operational use, presented by Steel of War.